This is apparently the worst time to buy a new or used vehicle. But is it really? They are wrong. And I say they are wrong without specifying because that's pretty much the whole internet. And they've been saying it for 2 years. So don't be fooled. This is must-know information. So many of you in the live chat here have been buying vehicles throughout the last 2 years. So thank you. Thank you for not falling into the it's the worst time ever to buy, don't buy trap. I think a lot of that is about getting your $2,000 to $20,000 per YouTube video. And I also think that some of it is true. So let's cover what's true, what's not. We need to be far more specific and to categorize things in a manner that most channels don't do to actually get through what you need to know. Because there are some vehicles you should absolutely buy right now, and there's some vehicles and categories of vehicles you should absolutely not buy right now. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. So let's jump right in. Let's put the pedal to the metal. And let's make it so that maybe we can have more cars and more power. So subscribe to help feed and dress those poodles before we get on and help share this information that I don't think you'll find anywhere else. Hit the thumbs up to get the word out and share the video, please. And thank you so very much. Now, lots of videos right now are telling you it is officially the worst time to buy a new car. And they don't just mean new car as in new car as the category. They just mean you getting a new vehicle, car, truck. So let's cover the truth behind this and the parts you need to know to not get fooled on. So percentage rates, let's talk about the truth behind this. Percentage rates for used are the worst they've been in many, many years, over a decade, because in the US, they're averaging at basically 14%, just about 14% interest rate. And yeah, that is a pretty darn good reason on paper when you compare to 3 years ago. It's a pretty darn great reason to say you should not buy right now. It is absolutely the worst time to buy. It's some of the highest interest rates we've seen in over a decade. However, don't be fooled by this, because if your credit is half decent to good, then 9.99% should be your used rate. You can maybe even get 8.99% depending on the age of the vehicle, the mileage on that vehicle, and what that vehicle is. Because guess what? Just like insurance companies, banks need to assess risk. And if you're unbelievably low risk, and if the vehicle is unbelievably low risk, they're willing to give a better interest rates. What does low risk vehicle really mean? Well, it means that the bank isn't worried to be competing for your money with the mechanic, because they know you'll give your money to the mechanic because you need your wheels, you need your ride, you want your hot whip to get your hot wife. So guess what? You're going to fix it before you pay for it. You know, your monthly payment coming in, you might avoid it for 6 months because your priority is getting to work, impressing the pretty ladies, the wife. So the banks aren't stupid. They know where your money is going to go first. You're not going to have a broken vehicle in your yard for 8 months and be making payments when you could get it fixed. So the older the vehicle you get, the less the length of that loan is shortened. You can't have it as long as a 1 or 2 year old vehicle, and the interest rate goes higher. Very important that we keep that in mind when we're shopping for used vehicles, which the prices have gone down on, and they've continued to go down. SUVs down 6.7%. Used cars down 5.2%. Pickup trucks down 1.2%. I'd say now in late October and throughout November and December and January, prices on used pickups are going to continue to go down because we have so many new pickups available. And now, as of the last month or two, basically 2 months, used inventory of pickup trucks has skyrocketed. We have more vehicles, I think, than we ever have had at our dealer. So that's a little bit of insider information. But Marie, do you think I'm going to be concluding and saying that, yes, this is absolutely the worst time to buy a new vehicle, new or used vehicle?
No, I'm not sure you will say that.
Luxury SUVs, average used price down 6.7%. Luxury cars, average used price down 11.2%. And some people will be desperate to sell you a luxury car because some dealers have had a luxury car sitting on their lot for 6 months to a year. Or a Chrysler Pacifica, I think average, I got this from Car Edge, so I recall in my from recollection, they're saying that the Chrysler Pacifica, the hybrid van, the average days of inventory is just over 1,000 days. So years, like their dealers are absolutely stuck with these vehicles.
So you could have a good price on it. It's a good time to buy.
Yep. And you know what? You don't want to use the majority, the argument of, well, the majority must be right, but you also don't want to ignore what the majority of people are doing. Don't take it as truth or fact, because that's a logical fallacy, and there's a reason why it's called a logical fallacy. It means it just doesn't work that way every single time. However, ask yourself, why are so many people avoiding the Chrysler Pacifica? Now, please comment in the section if you have any knowledge, any experience with the Chrysler Pacifica. Let us know, share your information. Hybrids and EVs are down 20%, 20.3% down. Vans down 4.2%. So from this, where can we see prices getting a lot better with used vehicles? Tremendously better when it comes to hybrids and EVs. And the used market is going to continue to go down. So I must give credit where credit is due. Brandon from Car Questions Answered really covered very well the point that, and he's completely right, used prices are going to continue to drop. But it does not mean that it is absolutely the worst time ever to buy a vehicle. Let's get into that and cover exactly why. So new vehicles, let's talk about both new and used. New vehicles, the average interest rate is at 9.95% on the US side. It makes it seem like if you're in the market for a newer used vehicle with these high interest rates, used almost being at 14%, new being at almost 10%, basically 10% as the average, and make you think that it is the worst time to buy. Don't touch one of these vehicles. And that's not what we're getting at here. We need to put a fine line here. We need to categorize things. You can get some amazing hot deals out there. And yeah, there's some hot garbage out there. So let's cover it. Again, don't be fooled, as yes, if you buy at one of those rates, then it is the worst time ever to buy. And the Fed has talked about interest rates almost not going down for the next 2 years. Very little change in interest rates for the next 2 years. They're talking about end of 2024 to see a very minor drop in interest rates, probably 0.25, followed by near the end of 2025, they're talking about another 0.25. Basically, they're talking about over 2 years, a 0.5% interest rate drop. I don't see that as there being some amazing future ahead of us. And vehicles will follow inflation for the most part. So here's that huge but. And that huge but that's coming in here, because this is an episode that'll have more buts in it than you'll have ever seen. But not if you just generally scroll across YouTube, because that seems to be something that sells like crazy. We're not doing it here. The huge buts in here aren't hers or mine. No buts here in the room being shown. The huge but is, well, the but is that models have some manufacturers and some models have incredibly high inventory. If you're talking about new vehicles, high inventory when it comes to trucks. So you can get a great deal on trucks. Right now, Ford, this is the best time of the year so far throughout all of 2023 to get a Ford F-150. We haven't seen prices this good. Rebates, you can either grab 1.99% interest, or you can take a little bit more interest, or if you're paying cash, great. can get $5,500 off in Canada on an F-150. So if you're looking at a $70,000 or $75,000 Canadian pickup truck, you can remove a nice percentage off that price by saving yourself $5,500. That's the best rebate we've seen all year. It's officially the best time of year in 2023 thus far to buy a new F-150. And Ford is working it out. So whether if you're going to be financing for a long period of time, go for that better interest rate. And they've also worked it out, in this month we've had 2 promotions on the F-150, either incredibly low interest rate compared to the average of basically being 10%, or huge rebate. Now, if you've got a trade that's paid off, if you're putting down some cash, or if you're financing for a shorter period of time, or if you're leasing, jump on the big rebate. That's where the deal is at. And remember, you can always balance these out. You can always count them out. Financed amount isn't the overall cost of the loan. Taking the number of payments by the monthly payment will tell you the total cost of that loan, and you can compare it between the lower interest. But simply put, if you're financing for a pretty long period of time, or you have to refinance amount from a previous vehicle because you bought it 2 years ago over MSRP, go for the better interest rate. But you can count that out. Now, Brandon from Car Questions Answered covered the used market really well for cars under 10K. Like he said, his used cars at his lot needed to be dropped by $500 to move, and the quality has gone up because, wholesale selection has gone way up. They went from having next to no vehicles for sale and selling for way too high at car auctions, and that's because car dealers were holding on to them, because new car dealers that get first dibs on these vehicles had next to no used vehicles for sale and next to no new vehicles for sale, so they just wanted something to sell to keep their sales teams there, to keep money coming into the business. So they kept the good stuff, the average stuff, and a lot of dealers even kept the bad stuff. Now, we were still sending our bad stuff off to the wholesale auction house because we don't want the bad stuff for our local community. We do our absolute best to review, and we actually evaluate. We've often sent even to other mechanics the vehicles to evaluate what's good and bad on those vehicles, so we can tell our customers, hey, this is what's good, this is what's bad. And then often, we try to have very competitive prices on the internet, some of the lowest prices for the model, mileage, and equipment. But then instead of being negotiated on price, since our price is already great, what do? We say, you know what? We want to sell you a vehicle that's in the best condition possible for what we know, based on an unbiased third party, a whole other source, not us, not our own mechanics saying it's great because they're told to say it's great, but by an unbiased third party. So it's like getting a second opinion from a doctor, not your doctor who might want to just sell you all sorts of medications, but another doctor who's not going to get to sell you all that stuff. Maybe he has, a natural solution that won't keep you on medication for the last 30, 40, 50 years of your life. So that's the type of mechanic company that we'll send these to. And we'd like to, tell people, hey, look, this needs $1,500 from what another source said to be hunky-dory, to be, tip-top. And you know what? Your offer of $1,000 or $2,000 or even $500 less, you know what? Instead of giving you $500 rebate, our price is already really competitive. Why don't we do the $1,500 of work on this vehicle, or $2,000, or heck, I've sold a BMW before, not that old, and it needed $7,800. We put $3,800. We thought everything was good. It went off within 2-3 weeks. Other lights came out on. We had no legal obligation to do anything, but we put another $4,000. We paid another mechanic a province over. That's like a state, except our provinces are huge, so it's like 4 or 5 states over. But we paid them to do the work. Now, I'd say that's the type of dealership you want to do business with. Sometimes looking for the biggest rebate will have you end up being the biggest loser, because often the places that have the biggest rebate, it's because their initial price isn't right. And it's because they just washed and waxed and vacuumed the vehicle, made it look good, but didn't actually make it good. So review, make sure to either have a vehicle inspected or make sure that there's an inspection sheet available, ideally, not the dealership that's selling you the vehicle. That should be the dealership that is inspecting the vehicle, because, conflict of interest, sort of like when you're a politician making laws and overseeing what's going to happen in, let's say, the military, world politics, internal politics, and you're allowed to trade stocks. Very odd. Or receive lobbying money from companies that essentially lobbying is, well, it's bribery. It's bribery without any legal contract to keep you from not doing what is expected to be done. However, I think it's pretty obvious if you don't do what you're told, when you get money from someone, if you don't do what was intended to be done, you're not gonna get any more money from them. And the dangerous and horrible thing about money is, well, I think we can all agree there's never enough. We always want more.
That's the thing.
It's like sugar. Once you get the taste for it, you're stuck for life. Now,
that's a good comparison.
So, Brandon, that's my rant for the night. There probably won't be another, but stay tuned just in case. Well, because that's also fantastic health advice, so you can live longer, be clear-minded, and avoid things, like heart disease, or help you to avoid things like heart disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, a slew of problems. So Brandon from Car Questions answered, covered the used car market really well, said that inventory is really high. He dropped prices at his lot to get them moved. And that was the right thing to do. So watch, locally at our dealer, he sells in the 5,000 or less market. We have next to no cars under 10,000. But we have 100 used vehicles for sale. And in those 100 used vehicles, they're almost all over $20,000. They're generally mostly between $20,000 and $100,000, but a lot in the $35,000 to $65,000 range. That's the bulk of what we sell. And most of our vehicles have been dropped by $1,000 to $3,000 just recently. They were also dropped back in late August, early September. They were also dropped. The vehicles we had on lot back in early June, late May were dropped. And why were they dropped? Well, because prices had gone up in the spring and started to calm in the summer. And spring is the peak of prices. Summer drops, end of summer drops. Not very much going on at dealerships traditionally. Last few days of August, first few weeks of September, it's the whole back to school. And then what happens after the back to school wildness? Well, more sales come in and inventory moves. There's a little pickup. October is decent. And actually this October has been incredible for me. But that's just local. We can't assume what's going on at one place is the truth for everywhere. But there is a huge drop in trade-in values and the price of vehicles on used marks. There should be a drop in November and December. And everyone on the internet says December is absolutely the best time to buy. Is it true? Yes and no. It's true if you're buying and not trading in, or if your trade-in is worth next to nothing. And here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Brandon from Car Questions answered for his category of vehicles of $0 to $5,000. Yeah, wait. He's telling people to wait. He's right. In that category of vehicle, wait until later, because prices will continue to go down for that segment because they were high, because those vehicles were rare and all the vehicles had gone up so much that so many more people than usual were looking for a vehicle under $10,000 with these higher interest rates. More people want to buy a vehicle cash. And banks have actually tightened their lending rules. So they don't want to lend to just anyone. They're tired of taking back Dodge products from people who won't pay them. I'm not picking on Dodge clients. I'm just saying Dodge products are number one for repoed vehicles. They're returned the most. And they're not,
sad.
and a Dodge Challenger, I love looking at them. I love the style, but I don't know if I actually want to get one because that's the vehicle that always seems to drive by me at 200 kilometers an hour, 160 miles per hour. It's wild. So for the under 5K market, people generally don't have a trade-in, or the trade-in is such garbage, the condition is so poor that it's worth $500 or less as a trade-in. So then, yes, you should wait, because in the future, when trade-in prices go down, you won't be affected in that 5K price market, or even I'd say the $10,000 and under price market. Because if you're buying a $10,000 used vehicle, chances are your trade-in is going to be a $500 trade-in. You might think it's worth $6,000. And if on the market it's selling for $6,000, guess what? Its trade-in value is about $1,000, because it probably needs a couple $1,000 in mechanics and maintenance. It probably needs $1,000 or $1,500 in body work. And the dealer doesn't know how long they'll be paying interest on it. They need to have a bit of a buffer, because they could have it on the lot for 6 months or even a year. So if you think it sells for $6,000, as a general, I do this myself. I look at the most expensive one and then I go, oh, well, and I kind of say my vehicle should sell in the average asking price. Average asking price vehicles don't get sold unless the person is lucky enough to get a phone call and then is very negotiable. The vehicles that actually sell if they're the least expensive on the market and in good condition, and if there's a tiny bit of wiggle room for negotiation. Those are the vehicles that do sell. And that's actually a trick for selling your vehicle. Now, guess what? Trade-in values have been dropping. Coincidentally, new rebates have been going up, better and bigger rebates than any other time in 2023. Interest rates, promotional interest rates on vehicles. Let's get some photos here. That's our baby room. That's a little pause, a little commercial. We didn't do a Sunday night live last week. We're preparing the baby room. It's coming along. That's a picture before. We're now more done than this, but still not done. Vehicles that are going to still be, the harder to convince to buy vehicles, rare vehicles, are going to have high interest rates, no rebates. And then you've got to ask yourself, is it worth buying? Well, these Broncos are worth buying because their resale value are really high. High interest rate on a Maverick. Why? Because they're unbelievably sought after. You probably won't find one on a lot unless it's for over MSRP. But I'd say order one because it's an incredible offer. And yes, we're at 8.49 interest rate now. And it is higher than it was 3 months ago. So is it the worst time to buy a Ford Maverick? Yes. Is it still a fantastic time to buy a Ford Maverick? Yes. Interest rates have been going up. As long as they continue to be sought after like this, the interest rates will stay the same or go higher. But one thing's for sure, with inflation going up, the price on the Mavericks will go up. If you find a 2023, buy it, because the 2024 is going to cost more. And the resale on this vehicle is incredible. So Marie, if you would have listened 6 months ago to every single YouTube channel telling you it's the worst time to buy a vehicle, basically you have to be a complete dummy to buy a vehicle, and they get paid $2,000 to $20,000 to make these videos, what would have happened?
Yeah, when I bought the Maverick a few months ago, it was the good time to buy it. And for sure, at that point,
best time ever.
I was almost crying with my 4.99 interest, but now that it's at 8, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, now it's at 8.49. So when I was saying 6 months ago, certain vehicles need to be bought, it was a good time. And you made money. You actually, your Maverick, it sold for more than what you paid for it.
If the interest rate is high, sometimes you could have a good balance on the other side with the price.
So that's, when people start coming to me and saying, hey, you know what, we need a members only live because I'm looking at buying a particular vehicle, let me know, because that's what I'm here for. I'll coach you. I'll walk you through, whether the vehicle is good to buy, what you should expect for rebates, what you can ask for, negotiate, and I'll be here to help you through the process. Now, here we go. The big but. The big but for this episode. It's huge. Once again, not yours, not mine. The big but is that on the new side, buyers almost always have a pretty valuable trade, and the values on these trades is going down, has been going down, and will almost certainly continue to go down, folks. What does that mean? That means 6 months ago, was it a much better time to buy? Well, no, because the new vehicles that were available for 6 months ago, even if you got them at MSRP, still had higher interest rates and bigger rebates generally than they do right now. And that's when we're talking about, that's true to vehicles that there are a lot of in inventory. So trucks, for example, luxury cars, hybrids. So like we saw in the other chart, 20-some% decrease in the price of hybrids, 11.9% decrease for luxury vehicles. What does that mean? Those are great vehicles to go shop for. And I'm going to tell you right now, with all the trucks for sale, you can absolutely get a fantastic deal on a truck. Now, I'm going to say it, the market is going to continue to go down, and the overall selection and quality for used vehicles will continue to go up because dealers aren't just begging for scraps. They're not fighting for the scraps. So they get to be pickier with the quality of the vehicles that they buy. Now, some dealers don't care because they're, let's say, a used car a used car lot in a big city worries me because they can burn. There's no such thing as burning a market in a city that's of, 1 million plus people because there's just such a huge population. And even if you did burn your name, you could just, even on the same spot, change the name, claim bankruptcy, change the name, and get back to your shady practices. So I feel it's actually, when you're talking about a relatively new used vehicle, a used vehicle 1 to 6 years old, I think the best place to buy them is from the auto manufacturer dealer. So if you're looking for a Ford, go see a Ford dealer. If you're looking for a Dodge, go see a Dodge dealer. If you're looking for a GM or a Chevrolet, go see their dealers for a used vehicle of that brand. Because when I take on a Dodge, it's from someone that goes, I don't want to ever touch a Dodge again. Get me one of those more expensive F-150s. You know what? I wasn't able to swallow the price pill in the past, but now I'm swallowing the price pill in the past. That Dodge was garbage. Now we listen, and that's the type of thing we send to the auction house. But some dealers will still say, you know what, I can still make, $2,000 to $4,000 of revenue. Of course, after revenue, you've got people to pay, taxes, electricity, and all that. You don't end up with, $2,000 to $4,000. But some dealers will be like, no, I want to make the money every single time. I keep all my trades, even though the person with their Dodge went to the Ford dealer saying it was hot garbage and they want a Ford now. That's why if you want a Ford F-150, get it at a new Ford dealer that sells used vehicles. They had first pick. If they don't like the pick, they sell it to another dealer or directly or to a wholesaler who then sells it to another dealer directly, or they roll the dice sending it to the auction house and they gamble with their money. Mind you, auction houses, you can have like a minimum. I remember when I bet on our blue 2018 Mustang GT, I put a bet down. The bet didn't get accepted. So weird, because then I'm crafty and I found out who the dealer was. And I said, you know what? I bet that vehicle, if my bet didn't get accepted in the middle of winter, basically, I bet the vehicle's going back to early winter. I bet the vehicle, this Mustang GT, is going back to the dealer. So using the auction house information and looking through photos, I was able to get the dealer. I called them, hey, Mustang GT, 2018, are you getting it back from the auction house? They said yes. And I ended up buying it for less than what my bid was. They put their minimum price too high. So anyways, that's a different story for a different day. Let's get back to these big buts here. Trade-ins have been incredibly high in the last 2 years. And I mean historically high, like 42% higher than the historic average. So many videos from the last 2 years have been saying it's the worst time ever to buy in 2021 and 2022. And those, were horrible years to buy. Those were actually the best years we will see for the next many, many years. And they're the best years we had seen in many, many years if you had a trade-in. Yes, and people were used to seeing, a $5,000 to $10,000 rebate on an F-150, and then 21, 22, slowly that rebate came down to eventually having no rebate, but still 0% interest. And then the interest started to go up. We already hit our peak because the interest rates on the F-150 are going down. And this is generally true for all trucks. Yes, the window stickers have gone up. Yes, they also went up in 21. And I said, buy before they go up more. They went up in 22. And I said, well, buy before they go up. We still haven't matched inflation. They're going to explode at some point. They did explode in 2023, but now prices and interest rates have gone down. But here's the catch. Here's the tough part. If you have a trade-in, that's valuable. Its value is going to drop faster than what you will save in interest and rebates. So I'd say if you've got a valuable trade-in, now is the time to trade in. It was maybe a little bit better 2 months. It was a bit better 2 months ago because there has been a drop on valuable used vehicles in the last 2 months. And it's going to continue to drop as we go to winter. And I'll answer the question soon of, is December, everyone says December, right around Christmas, is the best time to buy a new or used vehicle? We'll cover that. We're going to answer that. So if you have a valuable trade-in, 2022 was a historically amazing time to buy new, as your trade-in was worth 42% more than the historic norm. Now in 2023, prices really did rise up and new rebates have actually finally come in. We've got rebates. We've already hit our peak and we have lower interest rates, and they have been rising or getting better since spring of 2023. So spring of 2023, you had a ton for your trade-in, but it wasn't great when it comes to rebates and interest rates. So that's the catch-22, you could say. Your trade-in value has dropped a lot, is going to continue to drop, and it's going to almost certainly drop more than the actual savings you'll get from better interest rates and bigger rebates. So what's the trick here? If you have a trade-in right now, look for models that interest you and look to see if they have high inventory, high numbers in a dealer's inventory. If so, that dealer is paying 8%, 7 to 8% interest rate on that vehicle. They're motivated to sell. The manufacturer should be motivated to sell. It's weird. Dodge hasn't come back with huge rebates yet for the Dodge 1500s, and they need to. And the reason they've got way too many is because they have not. But maybe the dealers are going to start getting tired of having so many and paying so much interest. So try negotiating with them. But maybe just make it easy on yourself and go buy a GM or a Ford, which are already advancing good interest rates. Because even if you take the bigger rebate, are you at $5,500 on certain F-150s? Does it come with the average new interest rate of 9.95%? No, you get to look at 4.99 or a little more, depending on how long you finance it for. So that would actually be an incredible time to buy, an amazing time to buy if you have a trade-in. Because if you got a valuable trade-in, imagine if come December, let's say you had it traded in, evaluated a month and a half ago, and then you have it evaluated in December. We've done that before. Our 2019 Raptor. This is the historic norm that happens. We had a 2019 Raptor, and it's usually not this bad. Part of this was affected by what was going on in the world. But the trade-in value went down by 10 grand on what was a $65,000 trade-in turned into a $55,000 trade-in, which went back up to a $60,000 trade-in come spring. It's usually not quite that drastic, but you can see that there is usually, I could say that from late summer to winter, you could see maybe 10% less trade-in value on your vehicle. And I don't expect new prices or, used prices to necessarily go down. While new, I don't expect a drop of 10%. Used vehicles, maybe, but then what? You break even if you have a trade. So if you have a valuable trade-in, consider buying right meow. And just because the interest is higher, like on the Maverick, doesn't necessarily mean it's to be avoided. This is a great buy because it's a great vehicle with great trade-in, incredible trade-in value. Never historically high trade-in values.